Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please take your seats, and if the tellers would please come forward. Would the tellers please take account?
I got 23.
Okay, section 1.
Section 125, 25.
Section 125. Section 2.
23, 23.
Section 323. Section 3.
49, 49.
49, 49. Section 4.
30, 30.
We have 127 voters in the hall. We have a quorum to act on any non-money articles. A quorum being present, the meeting will now come to order. As in our previous meetings that we've held for this annual town meeting, all of the rules that I have previously mentioned are still in effect. The warrant is the agenda for town meeting, and town meeting does not come to an end until all the agenda items on the warrant have been decided. For those, I'm just going to repeat just a couple of important instructions. Voters who wish to speak to an article, if you would approach the microphones on my left and my right, and please state your name for the record so that we have it on tape. And if we could only have 2 people at the microphone for safety reasons. If anyone needs to leave the meeting, if you would please remember to use the door on my left. Do not use the right-hand door or the rear door. That's for the to protect the integrity of the meeting. We do have a couple people who will be taking photographs tonight. They have approached me and let me know that they are taking photographs. We do have a reporter that will be recording. They are reminded that the photographs being taken during a vote. A couple of important reminders: there is no smoking on school property, and if you wish to go out and have a cigarette, please leave the property. I ask if you would please turn off your cell phones. No food or drink is allowed in the auditorium with the exception of bottled water. Before we begin, Article 2, Section 2-6 of the Town Charter states that all department heads shall attend the sessions of each town meeting for the purpose of providing the town meeting with information pertinent to warrant articles. If any such person is deterred by illness or other reasonable cause, he shall designate a deputy to attend in his place. I will now call for a roll call of department heads. Administration, Animal Control, Assessor, Board of Health, Chief of Police, Collector Treasurer, Community Development, Conservation, Council on Aging, EMS, Finance Committee is present. Harbor Master, Inspectional Services, the Library, Municipal Maintenance, Water Pollution Control, Planning, School Superintendent, the Selectmen, and the Town Clerk are in attendance. Town Council, I just have two announcements. Don't want to forget these. On Friday evening, June 3rd, there is an all-you-can-eat spaghetti dinner for the benefit of the Wareham Community Pathway. And tomorrow, there's Dining for a Cause at the 99 Restaurant to benefit the Friends of Wareham's elderly. I would hope that you would support both of these causes. Before we begin, Town Council is asked to have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I wanted to have the opportunity to address the meeting regarding Article 41. On our last session, Mr. Bickey had offered a motion to amend the article, which would have proposed grandfathering for the current applicant under the wind bylaw. And at the time, I was asked whether that amendment would be necessary. And my opinion was, and is, that if the applicant had taken all necessary steps to perfect the proposal, that language that Mr. Bickey had proposed would have been unnecessary. Now, one step to protect the applicant's application would have been for the applicant to record a plan at the Registry of Deeds. Subsequent to the session, in fact, this past Friday, I learned that there was no plan on file at the Registry of Deeds, and I wanted to have the opportunity to make you aware of this fact, as it could affect grandfathering, and it might have affected your vote on Mr. Bickey's amendment. If you feel that this new information, i.e. that no plan was recorded and that the grandfathering of the status is in some doubt, and if you wished to take a different action than you took, you could ask the moderator to reconsider action on Article 41. Again, it was and is my opinion that if the applicant had taken all necessary steps to perfect its proposal, the language would have been unnecessary. But it appears that one key step, which would have been the filing of a plan at the Registry of Deeds, has not been taken. So there is doubt as to whether the current applicant would be grandfathered. So again, if you wish to do so, and with Madam Moderator's permission, you could ask for reconsideration of Article 41 to consider the question that Mr. Bickey had put before you. Thank you.
No, we talked about this a lot. I'm just saying this for the principle of the thing.
Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second to reconsider Article 41. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. The motion failed. Okay, we don't have enough voters in the hallway, but we do have two articles, I believe, that we can act on because the motions will be for indefinite postponement, so we can take those two articles up. They are Articles 16 and 32. Article 32.
Point of order.
State your point.
Madam Chair, Joseph Mulkern, Precinct 2. I would like to reconsider Article 42, please.
That's a nitrogen article?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I will have to ask the deputy moderator to step up since he was the person who heard that article. Deputy moderator. State your point.
Also, ma'am, I'd like to turn the...
Just a minute, we have a point of order.
Madam Moderator, this is a procedural question or a statement. You made it very clear, Madam Moderator, that we would only reconsider articles on the night in which they were voted on.
There has been no ruling, Mr. Sylvia. Mr. Ashley will make that ruling.
But you have made it very clear that that would be the procedure for this town meeting.
I have.
So are you saying now that that ruling, that you can reconsider an article at any time during town meeting?
No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is we have a motion before us for reconsideration, which, since I did not act on that article, I'm going to allow the
Thank
deputy
you.
to make that ruling.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator.
State your point.
My point is that there has been a standing rule for reconsideration, and I understand that legal counsel had to clarify a point that may have been germane to an article that was passed last week. However, it has been a standing rule of this town meeting that we not consider articles that have already been voted on outside the realm of that night. The only time that you can consider an article would be on the night that it was considered. Now, the day it was considered, the day it was voted on. Now, this has nothing to do with the nature of the article. It has to do with procedure. And we have a set of rules and tradition for town meeting, and I'm very, very adamant that we have to abide by those rules. And it's been very clearly stated on many a town meeting, on many occasions, that motions to reconsider would not be allowed outside the day it was voted on.
Okay, sorry about that. We are allowed to reconsider certain articles if we feel that they are legally have a problem or erroneous action has been taken. What exactly is your argument for formality? For why we're reconsidering?
First of all, Mr. Moderator, at the meeting that we voted on this here, I did vote yes to repeal it, but since then I've seen new information that's came from the Attorney General's office. That's why I'm bringing it up for reconsideration.
What are those new facts?
Okay, if I may answer the question, Eddie Pasevich, Precinct 1.
I believe he can speak for himself.
Well, like I said, I just have new information. Ed has information here that I've read myself, and I would like to yield this question to Edward.
What is the motivation that's motivating you? With the time, for a second.
The motivation was the letter we received from the Attorney General's office, giving us a statement of why it took him so long to answer that was submitted months ago.
Okay, now
May I
we'll
yield?
let Edit speak.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Eddie Pasevich, Precinct 1. At the previous town meeting in April, this particular handout was given to everybody that attended. The handout I have in my hand, nitrogen fact sheet, vote yes on Article 42. Specifically, it states, the Attorney General's office has delayed approval of this bylaw because of concerns regarding its legality. The AG's office is currently researching
Point of order.
Excuse me?
Point of order.
State your point.
The gentleman should be addressing, all right, the new information only.
Overruled. He can talk about that because it connects to the new information.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The AG's office is currently researching and investigating this issue as no other community in the Commonwealth has any such bylaw. The important part, so at first glance, this bylaw did not pass legal practices. A letter from the Chief, Central Massachusetts Division, Director, Municipal Law Unit, Office of the Attorney General, Attorney Margaret Hurley. please note that the municipal law unit has not yet issued a decision on the nitrogen net zero bylaw, nor have we determined whether it is or is not consistent with state law and the Constitution. That's the new information. This handout that was given to you was a lie. It was a lie and could have swayed voters to vote in favor of this article by stating that it was illegal. It was not illegal, and the Attorney General's office, by their letter from the director, has stated that they have not made any type of decision in that area. For those reasons, I request reconsideration of Article 42.
This isn't a debatable question. It is my opinion that because this does not directly say that the Attorney General said it was illegal, and because it has not been ruled on yet, that the vote taken on Article 42 is still good. So motion would be denied.
Not, excuse me, Mr. Moderator, pardon me. Point of order, I call for a vote of the body.
Denied.
That's not debatable, it's a point of order, and I call for a vote of the body.
No, it's not debatable.
That's exactly what I said, it's not debatable. The vote of the body is called for, that's not debatable.
But I made a ruling that the initial call was good.
But your ruling is debatable as far as a vote of the body, and I'm asking for a vote of the body.
Negative.
I'm not quibbling with your ruling. I'm saying you've made your ruling. Now I want a vote of the body.
A vote of the body can only be taken if my ruling was that they could recall the article.
I'm sorry, sir, I take exception because your ruling has to do with the motion, not a vote of the body. The vote of the body is not a debatable issue, and we can overrule your ruling by a vote of the body.
No, you can't.
Absolutely.
No.
This is a I'm sorry, sir, this is a legislative body in a parliamentary process. We can, in fact, by the rule of the body or the vote of the body, overrule that decision. I'm sure Robert's rule would support me on that.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator.
State your point.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator, you have ruled on whether or not an article that was already voted on can be reconsidered. That is completely within your purview on the Robert's Rules of Order, and any call for a vote of this body is absolutely inappropriate.
Thank you. I agree with that. I did make a ruling.
Sir, it's a challenge by the body. That is not inappropriate. That's perfectly within our rights as a body. I'm not quibbling with your decision. I respect your decision. But we have a right as a body to vote. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about your decision on the ruling.
I'm going to kick this over to Town Council for a ruling.
The moderator has made a ruling. Are we done with this now? So we can, I believe there may be 150 people. I'd like to ask for a quorum count. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, you've asked for my opinion on whether an appeal lies with the body. I respectfully direct your attention to two sources of authority. One is Chapter 39, Section 15, which states that the moderator shall determine questions of order at the meeting. The second authority that I point you to is town meeting time, and I'm quoting from the second edition, which part is substantially the same, in fact identical to the language in the third edition. It says, in many assemblies, including town meetings in New Hampshire and probably in Connecticut and Rhode Island, an appeal will lie to the floor from the ruling of the chair on a point of order, where the statutes provide that the moderator shall decide all questions of order and say nothing about an appeal, as is the case in Massachusetts. There are two schools of thought as to appeals. One school holds that the statute puts the responsibility on the moderator and that he cannot avoid it by letting the meeting decide. And then there is a citation to some Massachusetts authorities. The other school holds that the meeting is supreme and the moderator is merely its servant. That would be the school of thought being advanced by the speaker. Adherents of the first school, however, may well consider it proper to take the advice of the floor in questions involving a mixture of law and fact, where the facts may involve questions of judgment. So, is there a question of law and fact here? I believe the answer would be no. Moderators who belong to the second school should never permit an appeal from a ruling based on a pure question of law when the result of reversing the ruling may be the effect of taking illegal action by the town. The meeting may be supreme, but it is bound by law, including substantial bylaws which cannot be amended except pursuant to an article. So, what does all that mean? In summary, what it suggests is that, like every law, there are two ways of looking at it. But based on the consideration of the precedents, it seems to suggest that the Massachusetts principle is one where the moderator determines questions of order under Chapter 39, Section 15, and that is my opinion. But that authorities in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire may delegate their responsibility on questions of order to an appeal from the floor. So in my opinion, your judgment under Chapter 39, Section 15 is supreme.
Mr. Moderator, if I may, and that's accurate. If it was a question of, there is no question of law before us, so we're not bound by it. Under Robert's Rules of Order, under appeal, if I
Point of
may,
order, Mr. Moderator.
if I
We'd
may,
like to get on with this meeting, please.
If I may, Mr. Moderator, under appeal, an appeal may be made from any decision of the chair, in this case, the moderator, but it can be made only at the time that the ruling is made. This is Robert's Rules. This is just as substantive law as what counsel has just raised, and counsel has said that we're not subject and bound by law because there's no question of law before us. Robert's Rules says we can appeal as a body. I'm asking you to please respect that right.
Where there is a chance for an overruling still in the books, even though we're in Massachusetts, I'll let you have your vote, but you got to get the overruling.
Well, that's up to the body, and all you're doing is respecting that wish, and if the body decides otherwise, then that's it. That's the end of it.
All right.
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator, point of order.
Don't. All those in favor of upholding the moderator's decision, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. The decision is upheld. Ms. Smith, can you please come back?
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call for a quorum count. I do believe that we have a quorum, and we will be able to move on with articles that involve the spending of money. So if the tellers would please come forward. Please raise your cards up so we may take a quorum count. Ladies and gentlemen, we have about 14 articles to do, so hopefully we can move forward and get through these this evening. Section 1.
Section 132, 32.
Section 132, 32. Section 2.
29.
Section 229. Section 3.
Sixty-one.
61, 61. Section 4.
34, 34.
Section 434. We have 156 voters in the hall. We have a quorum to act on money articles. I believe when we adjourned the other night, we were on Article number 7, which was the Upper Cape VOC budget. May I have a motion?
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate $2,375,173.00 as its share of the operating and capital costs of the Upper Cape Cod Regional Vocational Technical High School District for the fiscal year July 1, 2011 through June 30th, 2012.
Do I have a second? Someone to speak to the motion? May I have a vote of the Board of Selectmen?
Madam Moderator, the vote of the Board of Selectmen was 4-0-0.
May I have a vote of the Finance Committee?
Favorable vote 6-1-0.
Is there anything to be said on Article 7?
Madam Moderator?
On my right?
Thank you. I would like to ask the body's indulgence to have Mr. Kevin Farr, the superintendent of the Upper Cape, who has been patiently here for every night of town meeting, to speak to the article.
Would the body approve Mr. Farr, who is superintendent of the Upper Cape, to speak to the article? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Farr.
I'd just like to say thank you to all the members of the town of Wareham. We've received approvals in four of our towns. So in essence, we have a 2/3 vote. But I came tonight and the last two nights out of respect to all of you, looking for your approval for your technical school for the 226 students that we serve currently from the town of Wareham. A great partnership with your school district. Your students come to us ready, willing, and able to learn. And look for your support on this article, and God bless.
Is there anything further to be said on my right?
Move the question.
We have a motion before us to move the question. It requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. We have Article 7 before us, that the town vote to raise and appropriate $2,375,173.00 as its share of the operating and capital cost of Upper Cape Regional Vocational Technical High School for the fiscal year July 1, 2011 through June 30th, 2012. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes by majority. Article 32. May I have a motion, please?
Madam Moderator, on behalf of the proponent of this article, we would like to withdraw it.
Thank you. We have a motion before us to withdraw Article 32. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Article 32 is withdrawn unanimously. Article 25. motion?
I move to approve this article and that the town vote to authorize to transfer $25,000 and no cents from receipts reserved for appropriation community events funds to the community events special revenue account.
Do I have a second? Anything to be said for the article? No one wishes to speak? Do I have a vote of the Board of Selectmen?
Madam Moderator, the Board of Selectmen voted favorable action 4-0-0.
I have a vote of the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee voted favorable action 8-0-1.
Is there anything further to be said on Article 25?
Madam Moderator, through you to the body, I recommend that these funds be approved for the intent that is put forth in the motion. I respectfully request that these funds be approved for consideration for the Community Events Committee and the work that they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further to be said? Seeing no one standing, I'll now call for a vote on Article 25. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 35. May I have a motion?
I move that the town, Nancy Miller, Community Preservation. I move that the town appropriate from from the Community Preservation Fund FY 2012 estimated annual revenues under the category of historic preservation, the sum of $20,000 to update and redraw the maps of the Parker Mills Historic District, Center Park Historic District, and the Narrows Historic District, and also to survey the proposed expansion areas of Center Park Historic District and Parker Mills Historic District.
Do I have a second? To speak to the motion?
This is the second half of an article that you approved for community preservation, from community preservation a little over a year ago. And that is to expand Center Park Historic District and Parker Mills Historic District. We need these areas to have the maps redrawn to meet the standards that the state now has. And we also need to survey the two districts that are going to be enlarged. One of the maps for the Narrows actually is one of the assessors' maps showing, the pencil line of the outline of the houses, and it's colored in. The state doesn't think that's appropriate. So this is why we're asking for the $20,000. This is an up-to figure. It probably will not cost that much. Thank you.
May I have a vote of the Board of Selectmen?
Madam Moderator, the Board of Selectmen voted favorable action 4-0-0.
May I have the vote of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted favorable action 9-0-0.
Anything further to be said on Article 35? Seeing no one standing, I'll now call for a vote on Article 35 to appropriate from Community Preservation Fund FY 2012 estimated annual revenues under the category of historic preservation, as you see before you on the screen, the sum of $20,000. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 34. May I have a motion? This is another community preservation.
Don Hall from the Community Preservation Committee, Precinct 1. I move that the town appropriate from the Community Preservation Affordable Housing Reserve Fund the sum of $50,000 as a grant to Wareham Housing Authority for the replacement of exterior doors at the affordable housing complex known as Agawam Village located on Sandwich Road pursuant to a grant between the Board of Selectmen and the Housing Authority on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deems appropriate.
Thank you. May I have a second? I have a second. Anything further to be said on the motion? Mr. Hall?
No.
Anything further, gentleman on my left? No? No? Hearing no one else that wants to talk to the Article 34, I'll now call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes by a majority. Article 31.
Nancy Miller, Community Preservation. I move that the town vote to hear and act on the report of the Community Preservation Committee on the fiscal year 2012 Community Preservation budget, and further to preserve for future appropriation from the Community Preservation FY 2012 fund estimated annual revenues $30,000 to meet the administrative expenses and all other necessary and proper expenses of the Community Preservation Committee for fiscal year 2012.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Sorry.
I have a second. Okay, to hear your report. And then
The
we will act
report
upon it.
has actually been passed out each night of town meeting, so I would like to waive the reading because everyone has one. And then I would like to turn this over to Sandra Slavin for the financial report.
We will waive the reading of the report. Does the town clerk have a copy of the report?
Yeah.
Thank you. On my right?
Sandy Slavin, Treasurer of CPC. May I have the report, please, Matt? This was on the back of the report Ms. Miller just reported on. I corrected my spelling and updated for FY12 information.
Can you
Can't
talk
hear
into
me.
the microphone, please?
Indicating that since CPC Community Preservation Fund was adopted by the town in FY03 to FY11, we have received a revenue of $7,780,905 and have received them from three sources. They're on the screen. We have, town meeting, approved projects in excess of $6.8 million. The breakout is also on the screen before affordable housing, historic preservation, and open space. We have reserve funds available of $393,000. CPC admin expenditures to date have been $126,000. We have unallocated funds available to be used is $383,000. That's before this town meeting votes. For FY12, we have estimated revenue of $702,000. We are expecting $585,000 from the 3% tax in the town, and we are expecting a 20% match from the state, which is $117,000. So, any questions on the numbers?
May I have
my report?
May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen?
Madam Moderator, the Board of Selectmen voted favorable action 4-0-0.
May I have the vote of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted 9-0-0, favorable.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 31? Seeing no one that wishes to speak, the vote will now come on Article 31, that the town vote to hear and act on the report of the Community Preservation Committee for the fiscal year 2012, as is before you on the screen. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes by a majority. Article 11. I have a motion?
I move that the town vote to transfer $40,000 from receipts reserved for appropriation from the harbor service permit fees to the general fund operating budget to defray the cost of harbor master seasonal personnel.
Do I have a second? To speak to the article? Mr. Andrews?
Madam Moderator, through you to the body. This is a housekeeping matter for the harbor master's accounts, and we've worked with the harbor master to ensure that he has the appropriate seasonal personnel. And I know Gary couldn't be here tonight, but the fund balance on this account is $175,453. We're recommending that we use 22% of this fund to fund seasonal personnel for 6 seasonal deputies for the harbor master. Would urge your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a vote of the Board of Selectmen?
Madam Moderator, the Board of Selectmen voted favorable action 4-0-0.
May I have a vote of the Finance Committee?
At the time that the Finance Committee voted, there was 1 in favor, 6 opposed, and no abstentions. And the reason that we voted that way, so that the body understands, was at the time that we took our vote, we were not provided with the account balances. That information wasn't available, and we didn't want to set a precedent by voting on a monetary item that we could not confirm the funds.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 11? Seeing no one, I will now call for the vote on Article 11, that the town vote to transfer $40,000 from receipts reserved for appropriation from the harbor service permit fees to the general fund operating budget to defray the cost of harbor master seasonal personnel. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 10. May I have a motion?
I move that the town vote to appropriate $673,095.00 to the Emergency Medical Services Salaries and Wages account, and $162,219.00 to the Emergency Medical Services General Expense account, and further to authorize $835,314.00 in estimated receipts of the emergency medical services to be used to offset said appropriation in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E.
Do I have a second? To speak to Article 10?
Madam Moderator, through you to the body. This is a matter with respect to the emergency medical services line, and it is in concert with the number that we had that was recommended in the budget, and I would urge favorable consideration by the body.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen?
Madam Moderator, the Board of Selectmen voted favorable action 4-0-0.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted favorable action 8-0-0.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 10 on my left?
Margaret Ishihara, Precinct 3. I'm not opposed to this transfer. Obviously, it's necessary, but I'm hearing that we had a couple of ambulances that were out of service, and I'm just wondering if any of those funds will go to making sure that the ambulances are kept in service, and if not, what we might be doing about that problem.
Thank you. To answer the question.
Madam Moderator, through you to the body, thank you for the question. The capital request in my budget presentation indicated that we would continue to focus on public safety, emergency medical response. So I will be asking for capital appropriation in the capital plan for at least 1 ambulance. The matter that the gentle lady spoke to, that matter has been, thank you to the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen, addressed, and we have our ambulances back in order. But make no mistake about it, we're dealing with vehicles that go back to 1999 and 2001. So in the capital budget to be presented, we will be asking for a new ambulance coming up in the fall meeting. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 10? Seeing no one, I will now call for a vote on Article 10, which is to appropriate $673,095.00 as is on the screen before you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 5.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to fix the salary and compensation of the following elective officers. Town clerk at $61,700.26, registrar at $700, and town moderator at $118 per diem. Board of Selectmen 0, and any other elective officers of the town as provided by Section 108, Chapter 41, General Laws as amended, and to raise and appropriate a sum of money therefore.
Do I have a second to speak to the article?
Madam Moderator, this is a housekeeping matter through you to the body, and the town administrator has confirmed that these funds on the annual housekeeping article recommends passage by the body. Thank you.
May I have a vote of the Board of Selectmen?
Madam Moderator, the Board of Selectmen voted favorable action 5-0-0.
May I have a vote of the Finance Committee?
Madam Moderator, the Finance Committee voted in favorable action 8-0-0.
Thank you. Anything further to be said on Article 5 on my right?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I would like to amend the articles to state after the words Board of Selectmen, $2,000 each, and any other elected officer of the town, as the rest of it goes.
We have an amendment before us to insert that the Board of Selectmen receive $2,000 each. We have a second. The amendment is now before you. To speak to the amendment, am I right?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Brenda Ekstrom, Precinct 2. As many of you know, I served on the Board of Selectmen for 6 years. When I first ran for Selectman in 2005, the question was raised at candidates night as to whether the Selectmen should get paid. The only Selectman candidate at the time that said yes was Mary Jane Pillsbury, and said although she wouldn't be able to accept it, but she definitely thought the Selectmen should be paid. After being on the Board of Selectmen for 6 years, and knowing what is required of the Board of Selectmen, what is expected of them, each one of them are liaisons to 4 or 5 different committees. Each one is expected to be at those committees at least on a monthly basis, if not at every meeting. They have meetings during the day. They have their representatives up in Taunton, at the Serpent, at Mass Highway, in Plymouth, at the Plymouth Advisory Council. With gasoline at $4 a gallon right now, whether it goes up or down, I know the financial commitment that it takes to be a selectman, and I think that it's almost a bonus that not only will we be helping the selectmen be where they should be and without hurting their families, but I also think that it will allow for accountability, that when we're looking for them to be at something, that we can be assured that one of them is there. So I would urge everyone, I know this in the past has been a very divisive thing, but I'm asking you, I'm not up there anymore, I won't benefit from this, but I know the commitment and the time and the effort it takes. And so I would like to ask you to please support this amendment.
Mrs. Brunk?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Although I agree that the selectmen should be compensated something for what they do, I also realize the real facts and the real problems that this town is facing right now financially. And if you're going to give them $2,000, you better be ready to pay $12,000 for health benefits, because they're going to be eligible for them. This town can't afford it right now. Should we look and plan in the future? Yes, I think it's a great idea. But I know We can't afford to pay them now. Our school committee has to deal with the same traveling, the same issues. The FinCom, absolutely, we do a lot of traveling to seminars and that, and we put a lot of time in, and we do it because that's what we've chosen to do. If we're going to do this, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a plan. Let's have it in the budget. Let's not go stick it in there now.
On my left.
Madam Moderator, through you, I'd like to ask Town Council...
Could you state your name, please?
I'm sorry, Leo Bro, Precinct 1. I'd like to ask the question of Town Council, the wording on this amendment. It says 2,000 each and any other elective offices. So would we be giving the Board of Selectmen 2,000 each and all other elected offices, not prior set with a salary, get $2,000 also?
I don't believe that was the intent of Mrs. Ekstrom's motion, unless I misunderstood. I believe she just meant to insert it after the zero.
Thank you. If I may, Madam Moderator, yes, to add $2,000 each member and zero any other elected office. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Am I right?
Madam Moderator, Bob Russo, Precinct 2. I guess I have a procedural question. Not procedural. Do we have in the bylaws a requirement that if an elected official of the town is paid any kind of a stipend, it makes them automatically eligible for health insurance benefits? I know the chair of the FinCom did address that.
To answer the question?
Madam Moderator, you've asked me to address the gentleman's question. That would not be a question that would fall under the bylaws. It's a question that falls under the general laws, specifically General Laws Chapter 32B, Section 2. And what that statute provides is that persons who are defined as employees may be eligible for group health insurance and life insurance. As to elected officials, they have a special category of their own, and I'll read from the statute. It defines as employee, persons elected by popular vote may be considered eligible employees during the entire term for which they are elected, regardless of the number of hours devoted to the service of the governmental unit. Ordinarily, it takes, I believe, 20 hours to qualify. So it's possible for elected officials to be determined to be eligible employees for purposes of group health insurance. The body that makes the determination as to eligibility is the Board of Selectmen.
If I may continue, Madam Moderator, you know, some of us have some institutional history, and I can recall very clearly when this occurred in the mid-1980s. The Board of Selectmen used to receive a stipend, and I don't know if it was $2,500, and it was at that time that a motion came before a town meeting to eliminate the salary because of the health insurance issue. I will say that certainly I'm a strong believer of health insurance for all of our full-time employees. However, and I feel that our elected officials, if they qualify, should be eligible for health insurance. This also includes the school committee and other elected officials. To single out one class of elected officials, to me, is discriminatory to all the others who serve, at this point, for no pay at all. I would much prefer to see a proposal like this come before the Finance Committee for them to look at the total cost and bring it back to the town meeting in the fall or the next annual town meeting when we are looking at a total budget. Because we're looking at issues here that could be extremely expensive if you're looking at health insurance benefits. And we know it's expensive, but this is the reason why it was done many, many years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left.
The question that I had was whether if we add this $10,000 to the budget plus the health insurance, if that becomes an issue, does that make our budget out of balance? And if so, where would the $10,000 or whatever plus the health insurance come from?
To answer the question, if someone chooses to.
Madam Moderator, through you to the body, to the gentle lady's question, yes. However, we could ask for a transfer at a date in the future to fund this if the body would like to move in that direction. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
I believe the gentleman on my left was next.
Hi, my name is James Maxim, 79 Maple Springs Road. I think that the Board of Selectmen definitely deserve that for the time and hours that they put in. That's the least that we can do as a town to support our government. Even as elected officials, they put in more time than what most people do reading the paper or taking care of their kids. They actually sacrifice a lot more than what most people else do. And I think that needs to be represented and heard, that they're dealing with going without their families to deal with town situations and dealing with them and dealing with the town administrator, and they're definitely doing their job, so I don't see any reason why not.
Thank you. Gentleman on my right.
Bruce Savageau, Precinct 1. I don't see this as discriminatory in the least. No one on the Finance Committee runs for public office. They're appointed. They have no expense finding their way to their seats. They run for office, and I'll tell you from personal experience, that's hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Okay? Every time there's a committee or a fundraiser in town, the Board of Selectmen are expected to contribute in some way. That's money out of their pocket. To make the argument that they're an exclusive class, I know most of us in here, many of us anyway, are sewer contributors, sewer users. We pay sewer fees. We pay fire. Okay? We're paying for the full benefits in some instances for people that aren't even in service anymore. 99% of the health care. Our employees, it was mentioned, are only getting 75% paid for. They're doing the heavy lifting in this town and doing the work, but somehow a political appointee, an elected official is entitled to 99% benefit plus, in certain instances, stipends and salary. They don't do any more work, with all due respect, than a sewer commissioner does. Yet they're serving for free, and we have an entire political subdivision that's being subsidized by a much smaller percentage of the population. So $10,000 is not going to break the bank.
20 seconds.
We've contributed $900,000 to the schools without blinking. 10 grand is nothing.
On my left.
Cliff Sylvia, Precinct 1. I'm against the amendment, and not because I am against it philosophically. Actually, I agree with it philosophically. I think our elected officials put in a disproportionate amount of time, and it is time away from their families and for the dedication of this town. However, I am opposed to the amendment because this is not the time to do this. This should be done through a bylaw change. This should be done through a study. A complete financial study should be done on this, because we're not talking about $10,000. We're talking about the potential between $70,000 and $100,000 that has not been budgeted in a budget we just passed. This is not the time to do this. Yes, we probably should be looking at this, but not tonight and not under these circumstances. So I think voting for this amendment right now would be an inappropriate thing based on the fact that we've already passed a balanced budget. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you. Have, Mrs. Ekstrom, someone behind you who has not had the opportunity to speak, will allow her and then come back to you if there's no one else. Am I right?
Sandy Slavin, Precinct 3. The question I have is probably two questions. Salary. So there will be federal, FICA, Medicaid withdrawn, taken out of these payments, so the town will have to match that federal and FICA commitment. Is that correct? This is a salaried payment to the selectmen. No, it says to fix the salary and compensation. And I'm asking, are we voting on a salary for these 5 people, or to pay their expenses? That's the question.
To answer the question?
Madam Moderator, through you to the body, the answer is yes.
So it's salary, and the town must match FICA and Medicaid withholding, correct?
The Medicare requirement is 2.95% of contribution to match the amount, and the other fringe benefits that are included with the salary that is attached, that is amended tonight.
And FICA?
That's correct.
Okay, FICA, so this isn't just $2,000, it's $2,000 plus this town matching withholding, correct?
The town and the employee would be matching under the Medicare provision of 2.9.
All right, one last question. What will be the cost to the town to pay them $2,000? What will the town have to pay totally? What, $2,156 or something like that?
To answer the question, if
Generally speaking, about 25% is what it costs.
So $2,500 would be the total cost per selectman for a year. Okay.
To answer the question, on the payroll end, yes, but not for health care. Health care...
just to answer her question about
I'm not
Medicare.
talking health care.
She was
I
just-
want to know what the cost for a salary for $2,000 will cost the town per selectman. Okay, thank you.
On my right.
Through you, Madam Moderator, I'd like to give my 2 minutes to Brenda Ekstrom, please.
She has time anyway available, I believe. She still has time, thank you.
Thank you. To address a couple of issues with previous speakers. Number one, the Board of Selectmen, the difference between the Board of Selectmen and every other elected official is the Board of Selectmen are the chief executive officers of this town. When there is a bus accident, it's the Board of Selectmen by name who are named in those lawsuits. It is the Board of Selectmen that has to go and defend against, to go into Boston at the Department of Labor Relations and defend inappropriate actions by some of employees or other elected or appointed officers. The Board of Selectmen, whether we like it or not, the Board of Selectmen are the ones where when heads roll, they're the ones that the heads roll from. I understand that there's a concern with health insurance. As the attorney said, they have to vote in order to give themselves health insurance. I would venture to guess that if they did it, there would be an uprising. I'm asking to give the Board of Selectmen, the members of the Selectmen, what is at minimum due to them. I mean, honestly, I had debated to go to a higher rate. This is something, the Finance Committee, while they may show up every day at Town Hall, they are not required to be there. The Board of Selectmen, there's a member on every subcommittee. There must be 25, 35 different committees that they're the liaisons to. This is not asking for a 7 or 9% raise for the department heads. This is just trying to give them, one of the selectmen previously spoke that it takes 18 minutes from their house to down here. I can tell you from where I lived, it was 12 miles round trip. That doesn't sound like a lot, but I drive a big truck. That's 1 gallon of gas. If I'm supposed to be down here four nights a week, that's nearly $20 or $16 to get back and forth, regardless of any other time that I'm being taken away from my family.
20
So I would
seconds.
ask the body to please vote for this. If we have asked for this, or it has been approached, I would say 4 or 5 times, and every time people get up and say, we should look at that. We should make a plan for that. Well, you know what? No one has. So I'm asking us to do this, and if we have to force them to be reactionary, then we will. But please vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left?
Oh, sorry, Nancy Miller. I just have a quick question. If the selectmen are getting the $2,000, does that also mean we are paying unemployment insurance? Is that what Sandy was asking, unemployment insurance? So if, I don't know, they get recalled, we have to pay them unemployment insurance? I'm just asking. I'm just asking. No recall plans. I'm just asking. What about disability insurance? Doesn't this cover the doesn't this then turn into the full spectrum? And I agree. I think 2,000 is a very nominal amount for what this Board of Selectmen, any Board of Selectmen, puts into the job. But I am asking the question because I'm concerned that there's no line in the budget that I mean, how can we go back and change the budget now? It's already approved. So that's the question. But do they get unemployment insurance as well?
To answer the question.
I thought this was a bit quiet then. Madam Moderator, through you to Ms. Miller, if the Board of Selectmen were given compensation, they would not, at least in my opinion, be eligible for unemployment. The salary attaches to their term of office. The only way they can become unemployed is either for their term of office to expire. Well, I mean, that's it. The term of office expires. There are only two ways that their term of office can expire. They cease to hold office by choice, or they cease to hold office by your choice. And the category of your choice covers non-reelection or recall. So in my opinion, unemployment is not a possibility. Thank you.
Gentleman on my left.
Steve Curry, Rose Point. Question through Madam Moderator to the town administrator. I know a lot of elected boards and offices is expenses for travel, business out of town. Does the Board of Selectmen have an expense account? I know there's some, like for the Board of Assessors, if they have to go to ATV cases or Boston's for hearings. Is there an account in the Selectmen's budget to cover these expenses out of town for gas mileage and lodging if necessary?
To answer the question if he wishes to.
Madam Moderator, through you to the gentleman, yes, there is an expense line for the Selectman's office. Once again, it may require some form of a transfer at some point to get to the, I think, the intent of the amendment. But the answer is yes.
And with the answer to that, Madam Moderator, could I ask the question what that line item is, if it's available?
The actual amount, excuse me, Madam Moderator, through you to the gentleman in the body, the actual number in the budget?
Yes, the amount that was budgeted, Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
Mr. Administrator.
Thank you. $6,675.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman on my left, Mr. Brusso, you've already had time. We'll go to someone that hasn't had the opportunity. On my left.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Bill Heaney, Precinct 1. I move the question.
Thank you. We have a motion before us to move the question, which requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes. We now will take a vote on the amendment as amended by Mrs. Ekstrom to insert the amount of $2,000 each after the Board of Selectmen. All those in favor of Mrs. Ekstrom's amendment, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. It fails.
I'd like to call for a count.
Do we have 7 people that wish to do? Okay, will the tellers please come forward? We are taking a vote on Mrs. Ekstrom's amendment to insert $2,000 each for the Board of Selectmen. Will the tellers please take a vote? All those in favor of Mrs. Ekstrom's amendment, please say aye. Aye. Raise your hands, I'm sorry. Please raise your hands. Section 1,
Section 1-4.
Section 1-4, Section 2,
21.
Section 2, 21, Section 3,
32, 32.
Section 2, 30, Section 3, 32, Section 4,
10.
Section 4, 10. All those opposed to Mrs. Ekstrom's amendment, please raise your hands. Section 1,
Section 121, 21.
Section 121, Section 2,
9.
Section 2, 9, Section 3,
29, 29.
Section 3, 29, Section 4,
17.
Section 4, 17. There are 67 in favor, 76 opposed. The amendment fails. We now will go to the main motion as it appears before you on the screen to vote to fix the salary and compensation of the following elective offices: the town clerk, the town moderator, as it appears before you. All those in favor?
Madam Moderator?
Excuse me.
We were in the middle of a vote. I'm sorry.
I was waiting.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. To speak to the main motion?
To speak to the article, I'd like to amend the article where it says 0 to say $1,000 and 0 to any other elected officer. Second.
I'm not going to allow it, Mrs. Ekstrom. I think it was a very clear vote that the body was not in favor of a motion for salary for the selectmen at this time.
If I may, Madam Moderator.
I'm not going to allow the motion.
Madam Moderator, then for point of information, I would like to clarify that what the town administrator said when he mentioned the $6,000, that is for the office of the Board of Selectmen. That has 2 administrative assistants in it. That's what those expenses are for. That is not, the Board of Selectmen itself does not have a line in the budget.
Okay. To speak to the main motion before us, on my left?
I wanted to make an amendment.
Okay.
Okay. I would like to amend this article to state that the Board of Selectmen should have an expense account of $1,000.
Okay, I believe that that's outside the scope of the article, Mrs. Miller, because we're talking about salary, not expense items.
No, it doesn't say salary.
It says to fix the salary and compensation, so I'm not going to allow your motion. Am I right?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I wish to make an amendment. I would like to add after town moderator at 118 per diem to include the deputy town moderator at 118 per diem.
Do I have a second? Have a second to speak to the amendment?
Well, I mean, he's reporting for work. He's obviously been asked to rule, and he needs to be here every bit as much as the moderator needs to be here. He's putting in the same number of hours, although obviously he's not moderating. He stands ready to, and certainly seems to me in order of fairness that he should be compensated for his time as well.
We have amendment and a second to add that the deputy moderator be paid $118 per diem. To speak to the amendment, on my right.
Peter Balzerini, Precinct 3. We've gotten into a thing here with these amendments, and I guess we could go through the list of everybody that's sitting in here, and we can amend it and amend it and amend it and add salaries to anybody that does anything in the town. But I'd like to suggest that everybody who runs for office in this town knows beforehand what the rules of compensation are. And the selectmen know that, the deputy moderator knows that, and everybody that's on the board knows that. We don't seem to have a shortage of candidates for these offices based on people wanting to have some sort of monetary compensation. They do it for the service of the town, and if they didn't, they wouldn't run. We had 6 people run for 2 seats on the Board of Selectmen this last year. There was no salary involved. Why do we have to go into this now and just keep going over this and over this and over this and adding everybody just for the sake of making a point here? Yeah, maybe the selectmen do deserve some money because they do a little bit more, a lot more than most of the other boards. But put it on a separate article and bring it before the board and have it studied so we know exactly what it costs. And it's not one of these emotional things where everybody gets mad because, oh yeah, we didn't want to give the people any money. Do it the right way. I strongly suggest we vote down this amendment and any other amendment that tries to do this for the rest of this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Savageau, you had some time. Let me come back if you have time left. On my left?
Did you want me to answer that question? Or?
No, on my left.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Bill Heaney, Precinct 1. I move the question.
We have a motion to move the question on the amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The vote will now come on the amendment as made by Mr. Savageau to add that the deputy moderator receive $118 per diem. All those in favor of Mr. Savageau's amendment, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. It fails. The amendment fails. We now are back to the main motion as is before you.
Point of order.
State your point.
Do we have a quorum?
We do.
I'd like to have a quorum count.
Would the tellers please come forward? Please raise your cards so the tellers could take a quorum count. Section 1.
Section 131, 3-1.
Section 131, Section 2.
Section 228, 28.
Section 228, Section 3.
63, 63.
Section 363, Section 4.
32.
Section 234.
Sorry, Madam Moderator, it's 32.
32.
32.
32. We have 154 voters in the hall. We have a quorum. We have before us Article 5. We now will take a vote on Article 5, which is before you, to fix the salary and compensation. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes by a majority. I believe we have. Article 17.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from receipts reserved for appropriation from the Wetlands Protection Fee $25,000 to general funds budget to offset some of the cost of the Conservation Administrator's salary.
I have a motion and a second to speak to the motion. Mr. Andrews?
Madam Moderator, through you to the body. This is a recommendation for the Conservation Administrator's salary, of which he spends approximately 50% of his time working on wetlands issues, and of which at times fees are paid and fines are paid. So we're recommending that 25% of an estimated $27,259 be moved to his line. I respectfully ask for consideration on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a vote of the Board of Selectmen?
Madam Moderator, the Board of Selectmen voted favorable action 4-0-0.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted favorable action 0-7-0. And I believe because we didn't have all the information that we were looking for at the time.
Thank you. Anything to be said on Article 17 on my right?
Sandy Slavin, Vice Chair, Conservation Commission. I'd like to correct. I heard 25% of the amount in the budget of the funds. I think it's 25,000, not 25%, as I heard from a previous speaker.
Madam Moderator, if I misspoke, I apologize to the gentlelady. $25,000 of which would be appropriated to the Conservation Administrator's salary. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you. Anything further to be said on Article 17? If not, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of transferring from receipts reserved for appropriation from the Wetlands Protection Fee $25,000 as you see before you. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed? Passes by a majority. Article 26. May I have a motion?
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate from available funds the sum of $99,224.00 to pay for the second year of a 3-year lease for 8 police cruisers and 1 police SUV, and to authorize the town administrator to expend such funds that are necessary for this action.
Do I have a second? Second. To speak to the motion, Chief
Thank you. I'm sorry. Madam Moderator, let me just introduce this. I'm going to let Chief Stanley speak to this as well. Last year we began a program to replace aged and equipment vehicles in the police department. This is sticking to that program. It's similar to the ambulance situation where we have to stay on a schedule to replace, once again, police cruisers. This is the second year of the lease period for the 8 police cruisers and 1 police SUV. And maybe, if I could, through you, Madam Moderator, ask Chief Stanley to speak to this matter as well. Thank you.
To speak to the motion, Chief Stanley.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Through you to the body, this is, as the town administrator stated, this is an important facet of what we're trying to do. You'll see another article that comes up shortly to deal with this, but this is for the vehicles that are in fact already on the road 24/7. Thank you.
May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen?
Madam Moderator, the Board of Selectmen voted favorable action 3-0-0.
May I have the vote of the Finance Committee?
Madam Moderator, the Finance Committee voted favorable action 8-0-1.
Thank you. Anything further to be said on Article 26? Am I right?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I have a question. What is, and I admit my confusion still, does the $50,000 fully cover the expense for the full year?
I believe, Mr. Gray, certainly the town made it, I believe it's $99,224. This is Article 26. I think you may be on the other article.
My apologies.
Thank you. Anything further to be said? On my right?
Bob Russo, Precinct 1. I rise to strongly support this article. It's incumbent for our public safety in this community, being the summer community that we have. This is one of the best investments that we can make in our police department and also in our own safety. However, I would like to also add, I would hope that we would have the same kind of support in the future. I'm not on the school committee anymore, when the school committee has to come forward to replace our buses to keep our children safe, because these are in need, a lot of them, on a replacement on a schedule. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further to be said on Article 26? If not, I will call for a vote on the motion that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $99,224.00 to pay for the second-year lease, as you see on the screen before you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. We have 3 more articles, I believe. 28. Article 28.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate from available funds the sum of $50,000 to pay for the first year of a 3-year lease for 3 police cruisers, and to authorize the town administrator to expend such funds that are necessary for this action.
Do I have a second? I have a second to speak to the motion.
Madam Moderator, through to the body, I just wanted to point out, and I think to Sam's question earlier, if I can say this, this covers the 3 additional vehicles coming up for this fiscal year, and the available funds are in the fiscal 2012 budget. If I could also ask Chief Stanley to state his issues with this, I would appreciate it very much. Thank you.
To speak to the motion, Chief Stanley.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, to the body. The last article we spoke to about the vehicles that were purchased, believe it or not, those vehicles already have 40,000 miles on them. All right, and the reason is because I'm going to classify it as junk pile in the backyard that still remains. Some of the cruisers with tremendous miles on them need to be replaced. The situation is dire. These vehicles, if you look at it, you say, okay, $50,000 for 3 vehicles over 3 years as compared to $99,000 for 9 vehicles over 3 years. And you look at that with some skepticism, as I did. The reason is for twofold. First of all, we had seed money to put in before with a grant, a federal grant. We were able to put seed money in. In addition to that, we were also able to purchase an awful lot of equipment through grants, i.e. computers for the cars at the tune of $7,000 a piece, mounting hardware at $1,000 a piece, radar units at $3,000 a piece. It adds up quickly. If you look at the cost on these vehicles, they're approximately $26,000 base, $37,000 with the computer, the radar, and the mount, and another $10,000 to replace other outdated equipment, everything from first aid kits to light bars and so forth, for a total price of $47,000. Times the 3 vehicles is $141,000, approximately $9,000 interest. And again, this is an approximate because they won't cut that deal right until you're ready to sign the contract. And that's how you get to your $150,000. We are still working diligently looking for more grants, and we'll continue that quest. I urge your support for this because the men and women really need these vehicles. And I appreciate everything you've all done so far, and I really mean that sincerely because we are moving rapidly. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen?
Madam Moderator, the Board of Selectmen voted favorable action 302.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Finance Committee?
Madam Moderator, the Finance Committee voted favorable action 900.
Thank you. Gentleman on my left?
Jeff Sweat, Cremisa Road. I strongly support our police officers having safe vehicles. I just have a question on the financing. For both Article 26 and 28, what happens at the end of 3 years? Do we own these vehicles outright, or is this an operating lease where we then have to worry about how we're going to get vehicles after that?
To answer the question?
Madam Moderator, through to the gentleman, it's an owning outright situation for the leases that we have, and in cases where the vehicles can be used for the future, they will be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. On my right?
Michelle Langford, Emma Lane, Wareham. I share Mr. Sweat's concern about the price. if the vehicles are valued at, I think I heard correctly, 47,000? Okay, why don't we just buy 3 vehicles instead of leasing 3? And I don't know, if we're paying interest, I just can't see the logic behind this lease. And at the end of 3 years, we still own the vehicles? Is that correct?
To answer the question, if someone chooses?
To answer the question,
To answer the question?
I mean, it's pretty simple, that you're talking $150,000 in cash. We don't have $150,000 in cash. Thus, we lease.
Gentleman on my left?
Steve Curry, Rose Point, Precinct 5. I'd like to make an amendment to this article, Madam Moderator.
State your amendment.
Instead of, well, maybe you can help me word it. Instead of the 3-year lease at the $50,000, we just, the previous night during the budget, we took $128,000 out of the meals tax and added it above and beyond what Chief Stanley had asked for in his budget. I'd like to take that $128,000 extra money and just buy the vehicles outright.
Can you put that in writing?
I can try.
I just want to be sure that I understand it correctly, Mr. Curry. Mr. Curry, I am going to deny your motion because your motion as it reads says to amend the article to spend the $125,000 of the money transferred to the police budget from the meals tax to purchase the vehicles instead of leasing. And actually, what you're trying to do is a backdoor reconsideration of the police budget. So I would say that it's not within the scope of this article.
Well, that wasn't my intent, Madam Moderator. It's just trying to, instead of spending money on leases, just purchase the vehicles since there was extra money.
Okay, but your motion as you give it to me is not within the scope. I'm going to deny it.
Okay, thank you.
On my right.
Alan Slavin, Oak Street, Wareham. Madam Moderator, through you to the town administrator and to the police chief, in this particular lease, is there not a maintenance agreement included in this cost?
To answer the question, if you could choose to.
Yes, 100,000 miles, 5 years.
Thank you.
The reason why I asked it, if you have to pay for that, it's probably another $3,000 or $4,000 because these are considered commercial vehicles with high impact use, and normally the maintenance cost is quite high if you didn't have this coverage.
Gentleman on my right.
Bruce Savage of Precinct 1. Well, obviously, I support the article. money that was set aside originally, the one, I think it was 128 you said, that was for summers and specials and the 5 officers in the academy. So I don't think that that would have been appropriate, but in support of the vehicles themselves, obviously it's the most critical piece of it. If we're going to expand our force by 5 officers, we need the additional equipment to support them. So obviously they need the cruisers, and the department as a whole obviously needs the best equipment they have, not only for their own safety, but for ours.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on Article 28? Seeing nothing. The vote will now come on Article 28. The motion before us to move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 and no cents to pay for the first year of a 3-year lease for 3 police cruisers and to authorize the town administrator to expend such funds as necessary. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes by majority. Article 16.
I move that Article 16 be indefinitely postponed.
Do I have a second? We have a motion before us that Article 16 be indefinitely postponed. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. I believe this is our last article, Article 13. May I have a motion?
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53E.5 of the general laws to authorize the use of a revolving fund for the purpose of all-day kindergarten tuition, programs, supplies, equipment, wages, salaries, fringe benefits, and any related expenses, which fund shall be credited with receipts from user fees, proceeds of fund-raising activities, donations, and other related receipts under the authority and direction of the superintendent of schools, acting with the approval of the school committee. Such expenditures not to exceed $207,000 expended in fiscal year 2012. And further, that the unencumbered balance as of the close of the fiscal year 2011 in the existing kindergarten revolving account be transferred to the revolving fund established for fiscal year 2012.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Is there anything to be said to the motion? The proponent? No. May I have the vote of the Board of Selectmen?
Madam Moderator, the Board of Selectmen voted favorable action, 401.
Thank you. May I have the vote of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee voted favorable action 007, and the reason for that was largely not having full information.
Thank you. On my right?
Thank you, Brenda Ekstrom. If I may ask a question, I know we don't have an exact amount of what would be transferred at the end of fiscal year 2011, but if maybe we could get an idea from the superintendent, a ballpark of that, because my understanding is that a revolving fund has a beginning amount, spends in it, and has an ending. So if we're transferring money from this year into next year's, then we're actually starting with the higher than the 207,000. So I'd just like to know about how much.
To answer the question, if you choose to.
Yes, approximately $25,000.
Thank you. Anything further?
So is there a reason, maybe the town administrator could answer this, is there a reason that we're not doing $232,000 revolving fund? The superintendent, thank you,
answer
sorry.
the question.
The answer has to do with the 1% amount that can be spent from the total tax revenue from a revolving account. That's been a change from the auditor, and under this law, that's all that can be spent.
Thank you.
So by putting $232,000 into it, starting a revolving amount with that, an account with that amount, isn't that exactly what we're doing?
Someone to answer the question if you choose to.
The amount that the $207,000 is all that will be able to be spent from this revolving account this year. In the fall town meeting, we will be coming back to reconfigure this from another education law rather than town law, which does not have the 1%. Kindergartens, we've gone to 8 full-day kindergartens. Half of the salaries for the staff come from this revolving account, and we'll be spending more. We need more than that $207,000, but now it will have to come out of the LEA budget.
Thank you. On my right?
Sandy Slavin, Precinct 3. On a previous night, Article 14, it was requested for $307,000 and docked down to $100,000 as a cap on the revolving fund. If Article 14 was reduced to $100,000, which was a cap for revolving, why isn't Article 13 also reduced?
To answer the question,
Madam
on my right?
Moderator, to answer the question, the 1% that they're referring to is a cap for any individual department. You can have several revolving funds. It just cannot exceed the 307. So Article 12 was taken at the 100, leaving 207 they could be put to the kindergarten at this time. There is a potential that there is another law which would allow us to handle these revolving funds differently, but we wouldn't be able to use the money until we get to the fall if we tried to do something now. I believe those would be Chapter 71s rather than 44, and 44 is very specific. In aggregate, cannot exceed 1% of the tax levy.
Thank you. On my right?
Michelle Langford, Emma Lane. I just have a question. Do we currently have all-day kindergarten? And if we don't, are we going to run into issues regarding bus transportation?
To answer the question?
Yes, we currently have 8 full-day kindergartens and 4 half-day sessions.
Thank you. Anything further to be said on Article 13? Seeing no one, I will now call for a vote on Article 13 as it appears before you on the screen, that the town vote pursuant to Chapter 44, Section, I can't see it from here, 53 and a half? E and a half. As it appears before you on the screen, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes by a majority. Ladies and gentlemen, we have completed all of the articles. I will entertain a motion to dissolve town meeting. I have a second. Town meeting now is dissolved. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming this evening. We certainly appreciate your attendance.